Hey everyone, this is Jody Vesley here again with the Heartway Pastor Missionary Caregiver Podcast. We are in episode 9, season 5 on making decisions. And today we're going to look specifically at what happens if you made the wrong decision. It happens to all of us, right? Sometimes we make the wrong decision. You may think, oh no, I failed. Well, welcome to the rest of the world. Every sin is really a failure to be obedient to God. And a failure to follow God's plan for us is another example of us being sinners. There are natural repercussions, but unless the wrong decision was fatal, there is still hope. You don't need to let the wrong decision define you. And so I just want you to just take a second and just give God a chance, right? If you've made a wrong decision. And I'm not here to tell you the decision you've made is wrong. That's a decision that you've come to, hopefully through prayer and just seeing the results of your decision that's helped you define what a wrong, help you to see that it is a wrong decision. Um, and I think I need to define here what is a wrong decision. What is a wrong decision? Uh, I mean a decision that is not in the will of God. That's what I mean by a wrong decision here. And so you may come to a point where you realize, hey, I've made a wrong decision, and it's time to fix that. And it's not that you need to give up, right? It's you can fix it. There's still hope. Um, some people may make the wrong career decision. Maybe they will move to the wrong place or take the wrong position at the wrong company. For pastors, you may have started pastoring the wrong church. For missionaries, you may have gone to the wrong field. For those of you who serve in Christian ministries, you may have tried to start the wrong ministry. God has a plan for us, but just because we don't follow that plan exactly doesn't mean we can't still be used by God. Some people think that if they took the wrong career path, there's no hope for getting things right again. See, God can use us through our mistakes, thankfully. There are multiple instances of this in the Bible. One instance is when Abram decided to lie to protect his wife, and that backfired. Despite that, God still used and blessed Abram through the mess he made on his own. Let's look specifically at that. Genesis chapter 12, verses 10 through 20. There was a famine in the land, so Abram went down to Egypt to live there for a while because the famine in the land was severe. When he was about to enter Egypt, he said to his wife Sarai, "Look, I know what a beautiful woman you are, but when the Egyptians see you, they will say, 'This is his wife.' They will kill me, but let you live. Please say you're my sister, so it will go well for me because of you, and my life will be spared on your account." When Abram entered Egypt, the Egyptians saw that the woman was very beautiful. Pharaoh's officials saw her and praised her to Pharaoh. So the woman was taken to Pharaoh's household. He treated Abram well because of her, and Abram acquired flocks and herds, male and female donkeys, male and female slaves, and camels. But the Lord struck Pharaoh and his household with severe plagues because of Abram's wife Sarah. So Pharaoh sent for Abram and said, "What have you done to me? Why didn't you tell me that she was your wife? Why did you say she's my sister so that I may look at her, so that I took her as my wife? Now, here is your wife. Take her and go." Then Pharaoh gave his men orders about him, and they sent him away and his wife and all that he had. So there were some natural consequences of not following God's plan here. And one of those, I mean, it's very clear that he didn't follow God's plan and he lied. And he said that his wife, Sarai, was in fact his sister, which was a lie. And that resulted in Pharaoh taking her as his wife. And then that also resulted, once Pharaoh found out, in Abram and Sarai and everything they had getting kicked out of Egypt. That's something they had to live with. Despite this, God still blessed him and his offspring. Remember that it's never too late to start doing the right thing, following God in the right direction, right? There's never a point where it's too late to begin following Christ. I mean, just think about the thief on the cross, right? He began following Christ at the moment of his death, pretty much. So it's never too late to do the right thing. Now, for pastors, if you have multiple times gone to the wrong church, a natural consequence of that might be not finding a church that will take you in as pastor due to your history of getting God's leading wrong, right? So that's something you might have to deal with if you've messed up one or multiple times with this, is it may be a lot more difficult to find the church. But if it's in God's will for you to be at such and such church as pastor, you have to trust that that will work out despite all of this, all of these mistakes in the past. For missionaries, if you go to the wrong field and switch fields, a natural consequence of that might be having more difficulty building a financial support network to go to another field. If you got it wrong once, people may be a little bit more cautious in diving in again with you in partnership. That's not to say that if it's in God's will that He won't provide, because He will, if it's in His will. But it may be a little bit more challenging. For those of you who have started ministries that weren't in God's will for you to start, it might be harder to lead people to follow you again with another ministry, right? That's a natural consequence to getting it wrong. Not to say that it won't work out. It can work out, but a natural consequence of you getting it wrong the first time might be more difficult the second time around for you. However, just because these things might be more difficult, to do the right thing, it might be more difficult to do this right thing, to follow God's plan for you. It doesn't mean that you shouldn't do it, right? It doesn't mean you need to stay where you are, which is not in God's will, and stick it out. When you're aware that you're not in God's will, you should pursue God's will. Now, let me clarify that, because if you have multiple roles in life, I'm not just speaking specifically from your ministry role. If you are someone listening that's a pastor or a missionary, I don't mean like, oh, I've realized I've taken the wrong position here. Why don't I just kind of yank my family out and out of everything they're doing, away from their friendships, and go somewhere else right now because I realized I've messed this up. I don't necessarily mean that in the moment. I mean, start making progress towards that direction. And what you may see is like, oh, one of the other roles that God's allowed or might be in God's plan for you, of being a husband, a father, that might require you handle this situation a little bit more delicately. It may not happen as quickly or as rapidly as you would like. So that's what I don't mean about this, and saying that that you need to follow God's will when you realize you're not in it. You need to start progressing towards doing that, and that's what I mean by that. Because far too many families in ministry have been broken apart, ruined because of this incorrect, in my opinion, incorrect theology that, oh yeah, I God's done with me here, or I've messed up and gone to the wrong place. Now I'm gonna, in the blink of an eye, yank everybody, all of my family out and bring them elsewhere. And there's no talking with the family. It's just like, I'm doing this because it's what God wants. And I'm sorry that your life is not going to be very good. It's not going to be very Christ-like. Your family is not going to be very happy with you if that's the way you're living your life. So if you make a wrong decision, don't make more wrong decisions in trying to correct that decision. Does that make sense? I hope it does. I hope it does. Um, yeah, it it is more harmful for you and others who are affected um, by you for you to remain outside of God's will than to work towards getting back in God's will. So, back to the illustration, you've made a mistake. Maybe you realize you're at the wrong church or a missionary the wrong place. Don't just stay there because you're like, oh, well, I'm already here. You can work towards getting out of that. Like I said, it might not be happen as rapidly as you would like because of making the wrong decision at first, but um, you don't just need to stay there and not work towards getting out of that situation because that's not good for anybody. It's especially not good for your ministry in whatever country or the church you're pastoring because um, God has someone else planned to be there or something else planned for that church that doesn't involve you if you realize you've messed up and gone to the wrong place. An example of that, and I think we've mentioned this story at another point, is like um, a guy who's called into ministry moves across the country to work as an associate pastor, and he has an idea of what that role will be like at the church, and the pastor and the church has a different idea of what that role is going to be like. And so basically, the church and the pastor had an idea that this associate would be working primarily with youth, and the associate pastor coming in did not think that was a part of his um, role at all being there. And so, obviously, at this point, both the church and the guy who moved over there made the wrong decision. So they needed to start working towards making the right decision once they both found that out, not just stick it out and let um, relationships get worse, let the church get worse, but start beginning to sort it out. Hindsight, right? Having ample conversation beforehand would have helped that. If you have anything on your mind at all before you go somewhere that's going to, potentially drastically affect you being there and your relationships there, you need to talk about that beforehand, before you move over there, before you make that commitment. When I came to Horizon Baptist Church, I was not planning on shaving my beard, and still I'm not planning on shaving my beard. And so when I came in view of a call, I came with a full beard, and I dressed the way I would like to dress, the way I normally dress, and I looked the way I normally look, so that it was very clear when they called me that they knew what they were getting and what I was like, and so they got the real me and not a fake me. And I think that's really important, is that we really portray ourselves for who we are before we go somewhere with a church or ministry, so that when we get there, we're still who we portrayed ourselves to be, and we're not, someone different because we didn't portray ourselves differently when before going there to others. Um, in terms of this being more harmful for you and others who are affected, um, for you to remain outside of God's will than to get back into God's will, think about the story of Jonah. Jonah went in the opposite direction of where God told him to go. There were natural consequences to that. There was a big storm. He was thrown into the sea. He was swallowed by a fish and spit out by a fish. So the others on the boat were affected by him making the wrong decision, and so was he. And so that's one of many examples um, when it's more harmful for you and others uh, for you to remain outside of God's will than to pursue um, God's will. All right, so I don't think there's a whole lot more to add to this. The main thing I want you to get is to this is what happens if you made the wrong decision. don't give up. God is good. God understands. You can make things right. You can start making the right decision by following God's will as you get to know God's will, and you can do it delicately with your family and the people of your ministry and your children. And so, don't make drastic changes very quickly all the time. That's very, very, very rough on the people you're working with and your families. Do things, you know, do them, but do them mindfully, do them biblically, do them in love, do them with understanding, and so that will end up working out a lot better for you and those you're working with and your families. I'm sure of it. Until next time, this has been the Heartway podcast, where we seek to help with issues at the source.